This video series attempts to provide an esoteric analysis of the Holy Scriptures, offering an antidote to the distortions promoted by literalist and uninitiated readings. Rooted in the principles of Empyrean dragon magic and aligned with the Illuminist mission of advancing humanity toward unity through rational spiritual gnosis, the series invites viewers to embark on a progressive interpretive journey. Each new video builds upon the last, creating a cumulative hermeneutic architecture that reveals the Scriptures as a coded metaphysical narrative for magic and self-realization. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth." And it was so. Genesis 1, verse 11. In verse 10, we discussed how the emergence of dry land from within the waters beneath the firmament may be interpreted as a symbolic representation of the consolidation of fluid potentialities and unconscious psychic contents into more stable formations within the domain of ego consciousness. The manifestation of dry land signifies the outcome of a self-organizing process of unconscious frequency patterns. This imagery thus portrays ego consciousness as a metaphysical island arising from an ocean of undifferentiated unconscious potentiality. At this stage, the development of ego consciousness and the projection of the divine from the ontological realm of being into the temporal realm of becoming begins to reveal its generative character. The imagery of the verse invokes themes of recursive cognition and the intrinsic nature of thought, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. Each thought gives rise to successive thoughts, proliferating into increasingly complex structures. This process constitutes the essence of imagination and, from a mystical perspective, marks the third stage in the spiritual unfoldment of the mind. The first stage may be characterized as the illumination of consciousness through divine inspiration and intelligence. This stage is symbolically aligned with the first Hermetic principle: the all is mind, the universe is mental. In this context, God may be understood as the collective hive mind of all monads, principles, archetypes, and the energetic relations uniting them, a totality that encompasses absolute universality and the sum of all psychic energy. This totality projects itself holographically from the domain of perfect being into the dualistic sphere of imperfect becoming. The underlying purpose of this projection is to transform the unconscious into the conscious, ultimately reintegrating the projection back into the fullness of being. The separation of light from darkness thus signifies the differentiation of intelligence from ignorance, of what is known from what remains unknown, of consciousness from what is unconscious. Here, light functions as a symbol of intelligibility itself, the logos illuminating the waters of the unconscious. The second stage involves dividing the primordial waters into those above and those below. The waters above may be interpreted as representing the collective unconscious, comprising the self, archetypes, symbols, and transpersonal patterns, while the waters below signify the personal unconscious, consisting of memories, instincts, repressed desires, and psychological complexes. The firmament, functioning as a metaphysical boundary, symbolizes the principle of faith, not faith directed toward a particular figure, but rather faith in the cosmic order and the divine logos at a stage when the light of reason remains tenuous and much potential has yet to crystallize. This separation of the waters, together with the establishment of the firmament, corresponds to the second Hermetic principle: as above, so below, as below, so above. This principle operates as a mediating bridge through which unconscious potential is gradually actualized and crystallized into conscious form. The third stage in the spiritual development of the mind marks the commencement of its formative activity through imagination. Imagination is a cognitive process by which the mind generates novel thoughts, concepts, ideas, and mental images not immediately derived from sensory perception. While dreaming, this imaginative activity operates largely unconsciously. Crucially, Imagination presupposes recursive thinking, wherein the logos produces reproductive structures. The sinusoidal patterns of unconscious thought coalesce into increasingly complex configurations, which then crystallize within ego consciousness in diverse forms. These forms, symbolized as trees bearing seed or grass-yielding herbs, constitute the fertile mental substrate through which consciousness cultivates and organizes psychic potential. The seed-bearing plants are the thoughts that generate more thoughts, the generative capacity of the mind. The grass is a symbolic reference to the ideas that sprout in consciousness, and the fruit-bearing trees are the archetypal symbols, concepts, and systems that nourish the soul and carry meaning across generations. Without the appearance of the earth, imagination would not have a ground to stand on. Through the emergence of ego stability in the mind, imagination can project itself upon it. As previously stated, whenever we read that God says something, he becomes cognizant of it by awareness and conscious recognition. The imagery in this verse spoken by God is the mind's conscious recognition of its creative power of imagination to form images that replicate in affirmation with the logos. Just as seeds generate new plants, imaginal archetypes generate whole worlds of thought and possibility. Through imagination, the mind is occupied with form-generating activity. Our entire universe exists precisely because of imagination that is based on recursive thinking and the combination of sinusoidal waves. Imagination stands as the formative activity of the mind. Without the stability of the emergence of the earth, ego consciousness, the creative efforts of the mind collapse in the chaotic waters. The mind transitions from passive awareness to actively shaping its inner life. Before this stage, the mind could perceive patterns in its field of awareness, but could not reproduce or stabilize them. Now, the psyche recognizes the potential, the waters of unconscious contents, illuminates the darkness through conscious understanding and intelligibility, applies attention to it, awareness, and generates coherent, self-sustaining structures in the form of thoughts, ideas, concepts, and systems.